For me, the development of my thought on the firearms issue starts with an understanding of human nature. History and a basic observation of other human beings indicates that there is selfishness and violence in the human heart, and that comes out at different intervals in history. Then we see that as one group of individuals takes the monopoly on lethal force, monopoly on arms, there's always a resulting oppression or genocide of the other disarmed populations. So in my mind, it's essential for a free state and for a free people to have the means of self-defense, the means of self-preservation. And firearms in our day and age, in our state of technology, is basically the most effective and efficient means of maintaining that freedom. We need to protect ourselves against criminals and against criminal governments, which pop up every so often in history. So that essential right, I think, it's a moral obligation for us to preserve and to use whatever legal means are possible in our democracy to preserve those. I've always believed in the basic human right of firearms ownership, but I never actually had a gun until recently. First of all, I debated some friends back in the early 90s regarding firearms licensing and registration. They believed it would help. I told them, very unlikely. It has nothing to do really with stopping criminals and protecting the population. So at that point, I believed in firearms ownership, never hunted, never did any target shooting. But later on, I found that one of my grandfathers, who had been involved in World War II, had a World War II German pistol, which he had acquired, and it became something of interest, and I eventually inherited that. So at that point, I had to get my act together and figure out what the laws were and how it was possible for me to gain possession of that item. So that's when I first got involved, started listening to some of the websites and communicating on the forums on the internet to understand what the state of the firearms laws are in Canada and how I could be a part of the debate. And from there on in, I got deeper and deeper as I began to understand more and more of the debates and more of the political activism, and eventually I started to be involved myself, assisting and volunteering in just basic firearms rights advocacy that came up and I was able to participate in. I had helped to organize a rally in response to Sheila Fraser's Auditor General report that came out in December 2002. All the firearms owners were excited about that because she demonstrated conclusively that the federal government was wasting our money on useless paperwork. So I helped to organize that in Toronto, and when on the internet in about May 2003 I had heard of the Cross Canada Rally, I thought, this is something I want to be a part of. So I contacted some of the organizers through the internet, and they suggested they'd be coming through, they'd be glad to talk to us. I felt kind of embarrassed, thinking, these guys are going to talk to me, that's great. And at that point I was able to help them to set up some of the logistics at Queen's Park. What I did was basically to assist with getting permission, which these guys don't like to do, from the Queen's Park security, because they're really antsy. They've had some violent protests where protesters had tried to get into the legislature and disrupt things. So I got permission, told them that we were peaceful, that we wouldn't break anything, we wouldn't disturb the peace, and I also sent out press releases prior to CUFOA coming to town.